Today, we're diving into a really profound journey from the Bhagavad Gita. It's one that starts with what seems like a simple choice between two paths, but it ends with this mind-blowing revelation about the nature of reality itself. So, how does this all get started? Well, the Gita frames this whole journey around one of the biggest questions we could possibly ask. I mean, imagine this. At the end of it all, you face an ultimate choice. Do you achieve eternal freedom, breaking the cycle of birth and death for good, or do you come back and do it all over again? This is the exact high-stakes dilemma Krishna lays out. So, to kick things off, near the end of chapter 8, Krishna describes these two eternal paths that are available to every single soul. And these aren't just, abstract philosophical ideas. They're presented as two very real, distinct destinies. Each one has its own set of rules and its own final outcome. And the contrast here is, wow, it's stark. You've got the path of light, the Shukla path. This is for the wise yogi. Their destination, the supreme abode, liberation, no coming back. But then there's the path of darkness, or Krishna. This is for people who are more focused on rituals and material gains. They might get to a temporary heaven, sure, but eventually they're reborn right back into the cycle. It really shows that your outcome depends entirely on your consciousness and your actions. And that's the whole point of this knowledge. Krishna makes it really clear. A yogi who truly gets the difference between these two destinies is never confused. This understanding gives you this unshakable focus on the path to freedom, no matter what life throws at you. Okay, so let's jump into chapter 9, because this is where it gets even deeper. After explaining those two paths, Krishna gets ready to reveal something else, something he calls the most confidential knowledge, the king of all secrets. But here's the thing, there's a prerequisite for hearing it. Krishna tells Arjuna he's sharing this secret specifically because Arjuna is not envious. And that's such a crucial point, right? This kind of wisdom can only really be understood by a heart that's open and ready to accept the truth, without any kind of bias or prejudice. And Krishna really doesn't undersell it. He calls it the king of all knowledge. And not just because it's pure, but because it's actually joyful to perform. Think about that. This isn't some heavy, burdensome duty. It's supposed to be a delightful path to understanding the way things really are. So let's just break down what makes this knowledge so special. First, it's supremely pure. It literally cleanses the soul. It can be directly experienced. This isn't just some theory you read in a book. It's totally in line with dharma, or universal law. As we said, it's joyful to practice. And maybe the most important part, its results are eternal. They don't just fade away like those temporary pleasures you find in the material world. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The key that unlocks this whole path is faith. Krishna warns that anyone who lacks faith in this devotional service simply cannot reach him. They're destined to come back, to return to that path of birth and death. And we're not talking about blind belief here. Faith is the trust you need to actually walk the path. Okay, now we're getting to the very heart of the secret, and honestly, it's a bit of a mind-bender. It's a divine paradox that really challenges our normal way of thinking about God and our relationship to the universe. So, Krishna reveals, the entire universe is pervaded by me in my unmanifest form. All beings exist within me, yet I am not situated within them. Just let that sink in for a second. He's everywhere, supporting absolutely everything, but at the same time, he's not contained or limited by anything he creates. He is both right here and totally beyond. Now, to help us wrap our heads around this, he gives us this beautiful analogy. He says, just like the wind blows everywhere within the vastness of the sky, but the sky itself remains untouched and separate, so do all beings rest within the divine. The divine is like the container, the context for everything, but it remains completely unaffected by it all. So the takeaway here is that while God is the ultimate source of everything, creation, maintenance, destruction, the whole shebang, he remains completely detached from it, almost like a neutral overseer. He isn't bound by karma or the results of all these cosmic activities, not like we are. So, given how complex this reality is, it's probably not a surprise that people see it in very, very different ways. Krishna now draws a sharp contrast between two basic mindsets, those who are deluded and those who actually understand. On one side, you have the deluded. Krishna says they just dismiss the divine when it appears in a human form, and because of that, all their hopes and actions are basically in vain. But then you have the great souls, the Mahatmanas. They see things completely differently. They're protected by the divine nature. They worship with this intense, undivided focus because they recognize the true source of everything. So, what does that kind of devotion actually look like? Well, it's a constant, dynamic process. It starts with glorifying the divine, which then fuels this great determination to keep trying, to keep striving on the path. That striving then gets expressed through devotional offerings. And all of this leads to a state of being perpetually engaged, always in that state of worship. It's an active, all-in kind of commitment. And all of this builds to the final, absolutely breathtaking revelation of chapter 9. Krishna just collapses the distance between himself and his creation entirely. He reveals that he isn't just the creator, but he's the very essence of existence itself. He just comes right out and says it. I am the ritual. I am the sacrifice. I am the offering. I am the mantra. I am the butter. I am the fire. And I am the act of offering. In that moment, the distinction between the person worshiping, the act of worship, and the one being worshipped, it just dissolves. The divine is revealed to be the very substance of every single piece of reality. And that leaves us with this final, powerful question to really think about. If the divine isn't some distant creator, but is literally the fabric of the ritual, the offering, and even the action itself, how does that fundamentally change the meaning and the purpose of every single thing we do?